Welcome everybody. Today we're talking about mental health and how it appears that some people are doing amazingly while others struggle a lot. So if you're listening to this, you might be someone who either right now while listening to this or at some point or another has struggled with mental health. That might be in the form of anxiety, depressive symptoms, feeling bummed out, going through some sort of a stress or some sort of a hardship. And when you look around you, it's almost as if other people are doing a better job at weathering the storm than you. And then so maybe you start to think and you go, well, maybe do I have a weak mindset? Whatever the heck that means. Maybe are they just more resilient? Is it a genetic thing? Is it because of their upbringing? Is it because they had a more supportive environment? Maybe if I had the parents that they had, if I had their upbringing, I would be doing better too. So I was sitting back and thinking about this. What are some of the common patterns that I notice in people who seem to struggle less than other people when it comes to general levels of mood, life satisfaction, and resiliency when faced with hardships in life? Now, I know what you're thinking. Oh, he's probably going to talk about sleep and nutrition and things like that. And I will touch on those things, but I want to take a slightly different approach. I'm going to talk about a few things that maybe you've thought about briefly, but you didn't know that there was evidence behind these things, that there was actual research articles which supported these ideas. Without further ado, the first thing that a lot of individuals have, who have greater baseline levels of mental health in terms of mood and life satisfaction, is routine. So, everyone knows what a routine is. It's this schedule. It's something that you follow, like an agenda, like a calendar, throughout your day and throughout your week. A routine could be a school routine. It could be a routine to go to work. Think about this for a second, folks. How would having a routine of meeting up with your friends to play Dungeons and Dragons every Tuesday and Thursday at 7, how could that possibly lead to an improvement of mental health when compared to people who do not have a routine? How can someone have better mental health when they have a routine for when they hit the gym versus someone who also hits the gym but does not have a routine? I want you to think about what a routine entails. It entails doing something in a particular way over and over again. Let's take a job, for example. If I have a job that's a 9 to 5, what does that mean? It means I have to be at work at a certain time. It means I get to leave at a certain time. Okay? If I have to be there at a certain time, what does that say about when I have to get up? If I don't have a job, I could get up whenever I wanted to. But if I have to be at work at 9, maybe I have to wake up at 7:30. Right? And if I want to go to work and be able to function efficiently, I gotta have a good breakfast. Not only that, you go to work and different avenues of careers and jobs are going to entail different skills and knowledge needed to excel. But generally speaking, you're going to have to be okay with working with other people, which means you're going to have at least a sociable bone in you. You got to be a little bit sociable. You got to be able to be independent when necessary. Some jobs are going to require you to work more by yourself, others in a team, others leading a team. Some of them you're the direct sole problem solver. So all of a sudden, what this job has introduced in your life without consciously thinking about it is you have a time to wake up. You have a reason to have a healthy breakfast or whatever nutrition schedule works for you. You go to job, you practice skills that are not thought about. Like if you work in IT, it's not just working with technology. It's maybe working customer service. It's talking to your coworkers. It's talking to your supervisor. You might be negotiating a salary. So all of a sudden, you're practicing a bunch of different things. And you're working on these different competencies or personality abilities, such as being caring, being assertive, being a team player, being a little stubborn if appropriate, knowing how to work with others, knowing your worth. Am I being overworked? Am I not being compensated properly? So you learn all these things. You come home after a long day's rest, after a long day at work, to rest, to hang out, to take it easy. And guess what? You're probably not going to stay up very late because you have to go to work again tomorrow. And all of a sudden, when you're thinking about working out or going out and doing something fun with the friends, because you want to make sure that you put time aside for it, you schedule it in. Hey guys, every Friday night, we're going to play golf near Steve's house. Or every Wednesday, it's yoga at blah, blah, blah. So think about this for a moment. If we have two people who exercise, one of them schedules it and has a routine, one of them doesn't. Who's more likely, if we were to hypothesize, if we were to make an educated guess, who is more likely to be consistent during their working out across time, across weeks, months, or even years? Well, individual A says, look, Mondays I'm doing strength, Tuesday, Thursday, cardio, and Friday I'm doing strength again. Individual B says, I'll work out when I feel like it. So they might work out twice a week. They might work out 4 or even 5 times a week. The difference is when they're tired, when they come home from work, when maybe they haven't had the best day. Who's going to work out then? It's easy to work out when you're in the mood, when you're motivated, when you don't feel tired. But when person A looks at his schedule and goes, man, today is strength day, it's Friday. It's a necessary order to make sure this individual stays on a path. Why? Think about a single habit that you do right now. It could be drinking Coke, it could be smoking cigarettes, it could be going on a run, it could be fasting. What would happen if you continued that habit for the next 5 years? And you might think, well, Daniel, I could drink a can of pop every day and I'm good right now. But if I did this every single day for 365 days in a year for 5 years, we'd have ourselves a problem. Not to talk about the excess fat, or the cholesterol buildup, right? The sugar that turns into fat into our body, the impact that has on teeth. So all of a sudden, routine brings needed order and structure to make sure we stay on our path, to make sure we stay on our journey. So, if ever things aren't going too great, think about routine, think about order, and however you can structure it so that it makes sense for you. Okay? The next thing that individuals have who have greater mental health than people who aren't doing that amazing is something that gives them pleasure. Now, when I emphasize pleasure, I really want to talk about low stakes, low competitiveness, where the score isn't that important. For example, maybe you play Call of Duty online, or maybe you go play indoor soccer somewhere. You're doing something where, again, it depends on the individual, where if you win, it's fun. But you're not necessarily playing to win, you're playing to have fun. You could lose 5-0, you can tie 3-3, you can win 4-0. You're not going to be bummed or angry or yelling because the ref, it looked like helped out the other team. You're just there to take it easy. And there's something integral about pleasure when the stakes are low. When the competition is low, it's relaxed, you get to try new things. For martial artists, if you're a black belt in whatever art and you're going with a beginner, there's a different pleasure involved. Why? You get to try new things. You get to try different techniques. You get to mess around a little bit. Maybe you want to grapple using only one arm. You want to challenge yourself. But what happens when two black belts face off? Well, now there's ego involved, and they're both going hard. And guess what they're going to do? They're going to revert back to the things that they're really, 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 really good at, which is fine. But you lose that element of playfulness, and you could lose. That doesn't mean two black belts can't take it easy, but it is more likely that it's going to get intense. And when that happens, they're less likely to experiment, they're less likely to have fun, and it's going to increase their stress levels. So, individuals who have something that brings them pleasure in a way, whatever that might be for you, that might be dancing, that might be singing, that might be going out with your friends playing basketball, something where the stakes are low, competition's low, and you're just having fun. And where being there, being fully engaged and being present, supersedes or transcends this idea of I have to win no matter what. All right? So, routine. In that routine that you've made, now let's say you've taken out 2 days specifically to schedule in pleasurable activities, whatever that means for you. Number 3, mastery. Individuals who have generally better mental health than people who don't, in their routine, have something where they strive towards mastery. So this is a skill. This is something that you do in activity where the number one goal, unlike pleasure, is not just, oh, I'm here to have fun, or I'm here to socialize. No. I want to learn something. I want to move towards something, okay? I want you to focus on those words are super important. It's not the destination, but I want to see progress. I want to become a master at something. That could be you pick up a used guitar for like $110, you start playing at home using YouTube, and you really want to get better and you start making little goals. I want to figure out what the heck the neck of a guitar means. I want to figure out what the heck these different strings are called. What are notes? What does it mean to play in the key of C? And you start working your way to it. Again, it could be in martial arts. It could be in a sport where you start learning terminology. In basketball, I want to learn how to do this crossover. So all of a sudden the stress is higher. Why? Because progress is what you're focusing on. I'm aiming at something, and the reward that I get is getting better at it. Not comparing to other people, only comparing it to myself. This is one of the reasons that belts are so popular in things, stuff like martial arts, because they're this symbolic representation of look at how far I've come. Look at all I've done. Or certificates, you've run a marathon or something, they'll give you a medal of some sorts. It's this idea of look at what I've accomplished. Look at how far I've grown. Look at this thing that I've mastered. So based on this literature, one thing I would recommend is in that routine that we talked about that you've now created for yourself, you've scheduled in pleasurable activities, schedule in something that you want to master, that you want to get better at. And these things can be pleasurable in and of themselves. Like you might want to get really good at biking, you might want to get good at break dancing, and it'll be fun, but the number one purpose in your mind is I want to get better. It's progress that I'm after. Whereas in pleasure, the number one thing you're aiming at is just having fun. And then if you get better, that's a fun consequence on the side. Does that make sense, folks? So we have pleasurable activity, low stakes, take it easy. And then we have mastery activity, playing the violin, entering a boxing class, whatever, going to yoga and trying to learn every single pose. So working towards something, striving towards something. So there's growth in your life and you're like, whoa, I'm not the same person that I was 3 years ago. I'm way better at this thing because of the time and effort I've put into it. So we have routine, we have pleasure, we have mastery. The last thing that encapsulates both of these things and some more is having a value system. Here's what I mean. What do you value in life? What are things in your life that you value that mean a lot to you? And if you're sitting there going, Daniel, I don't know. I don't know what that means. What do you mean value? Think of it like this. If you were to write yourself a eulogy, what would you write? If you were going to speak, if this was some sort of alternative universe, and you got to go to your own funeral, and in the funeral, your friends or whatever are there, you had to read something that described who you were and what you would be remembered by, what would you say? And I want you to think about it in the third person, as if you're talking about someone else. You're talking about you, but do it as if you're talking about someone else. We are all gathered here today to mourn the loss, and as you start talking, we get to figure out what you value. Because if I start saying things like, we're gathered here today to mourn the loss of Rachel. Rachel was a lovely girl who always wanted to give. She loved giving so much so that she always jumped on opportunities to volunteer. She loved spending time with her family. She loved playing puzzles with her boyfriend. And she was a huge avid moviegoer who would go to the theaters as many times as she could. Blah, 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 blah. And as you're talking and thinking about what you want to be remembered by, these are the things that you value. If you talk about your discipline and commitment to sports, maybe that's one thing. If you talk about the time allocated for relationships, there's another. If you talk about your ambition towards learning and taking studies, that's another. If you talk about your natural ability to lead, if you talk about, I just really enjoyed, or Billy really enjoyed putting smiles on people's faces, that tells you value human connection. That tells you value being around other people. More importantly, not just talking about serious things, but making people laugh, joking, being at a bar, not taking ourselves too seriously. Another very easy way to find out what someone values, and you can do this with one of your friends or family members, ask them what they did in a day. So let's say we're talking at 7 p.m. on a Sunday, and I say, hey man, what did you do today? And as you start describing your day, you're not going to say every single thing that you did that day. Well, Daniel, I woke up, and then I brushed my teeth, and then I had You're going to filter out the things that didn't matter to you, that you don't value as much, and you're going to tell me about the things that you do value. So if you tell me, yeah, man, I woke up this morning at 9 after hitting the damn snooze button 5 times, then I got up, I went straight to work, I didn't have breakfast. So in my mind, I'm thinking, maybe you're not a morning person. If you hit the snooze button 5 times, if you skip breakfast, maybe it's not a big deal to you whether you have breakfast or don't have breakfast. Now, we got to take this with a grain of salt because we have to check for reliability. What if you were up Saturday night? What if something happened which made Sunday an abnormal day for you and that's why you skipped breakfast? But generally speaking, you ask somebody, hey man, what does a typical week look like for you? You'll learn a lot about what they value. Well, I go to work and then I come home and then I hang out with my girlfriend a little bit. And then Wednesday and Thursday, me and the boys go out and we play some basketball. And Thursday, usually I go out to the lake and I do some fishing. So all of a sudden, the things that they're telling you, you're thinking, these are things that you value. These are things that you find interesting that you're sharing with me. You do other things as well, but clearly you don't value them that much to share them with me right now at this present moment. So sit with this thought, folks. What do you value in life? Is it relationships? Is it exercise? Is it just being silly and just listening to music, dancing? Dancing by yourself, alone? What is it that brings value to you? And the problem becomes if we start telling people, look, you should exercise every day no matter what. Well, what if you don't value exercising? Well, I could sit here and talk about all the benefits of going on a run or strength training and the impact that has on your heart and your lungs and your muscles. But if you're going down, I couldn't care less. Well, you don't value exercising. So the question becomes, what do you value? So we have a routine based on things that we need to do and our values. Things that we need to do are like, look, I got to pay the bills. I don't love my job, but I have to pay the bills. It is what it is. I'm not doing what I love right now. Fair enough. But you have a job, which means you have a set schedule. And if you have a set schedule, now you can start building in things such as, I'm going to schedule in a pleasurable activity here. I'm going to schedule in a mastery activity here. And these things are probably going to be related to things that you value. So if you're someone who doesn't value exercise at all, you're not going to exercise. Why? Because you're going to get sweaty, you're going to get sore, it's cold outside. You're going to think of 1,000 reasons not to. So think about what you do value. Maybe you love watching movies. Maybe you love spending time with your significant other. Maybe you love reading a good book by yourself. Maybe you love being in a party atmosphere and you want to go clubbing and be at bars. Figure out what you value and engage in those activities. The last thing, folks, I want to leave you off with is this. There's this brilliant analogy that I was told when I was younger. They said, look, Dan, you have a cup, and this cup is filled with liquid. This liquid represents all the energy that you have in a day. And there are certain things that will drain your energy. Doing taxes might drain your energy. I don't know, getting into a traffic altercation with somebody drains your energy. Doing something that you don't want to do can drain your energy. Doing homework might drain your energy. Then there's things that will fill your cup. So if you love your job and you're a high school teacher, you going to work can actually fill your cup. While simultaneously someone who doesn't like being a high school teacher goes to work and it drains theirs. Think about the impact that has on mental health, on stress, and on overall life satisfaction. And what tends to happen is that things that we value fill our cup. So even if you're sitting there going like, man, I'm so tired after work, but you value running on the treadmill in the gym, I will almost bet you money. That's how confident I am. If you go to the gym and you do the thing that you value, running a treadmill, it doesn't drain you. It actually does the opposite. And it's going to fill your cup. But only if you value exercise, only if you value the treadmill. That's why it's hard when we give this one size fits all. We say, well, don't be lazy, just go to the gym. Well, if you don't value the gym, if you don't find pleasure in it, If someone says, look, I just don't have any energy left, my cup is drained, that's not going to be the right way to replenish your energy for you. So you got to figure out what your thing is. Maybe just being in a pub atmosphere for 5 minutes, maybe that can fill your cup. Whereas for other people, I'm sure you've heard things like, oh, my social battery's drained. There's only so much I can do and go out and say before I need to be by myself. So think about your cup. Think about what drains you, what makes you feel tired and exhausted, and what does the opposite. You might be able to talk about baking for 15 minutes before you get bored. But you could talk about kayaking or boating for 2 hours and you wouldn't get bored. So that tells you a bit more about what you value, what fills your cup, and what drains it. And I hope with that, folks, it's been entertaining, it's been educational. Do with that as you will. And as always, take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.